and welcome to the Made for Business show where Catholic moms come to learn how to build a business that is simple, holy, and profitable. And today is a special day because I have a guest, my very first guest on the show. Welcome, Miss Katherine Burow.
Excited to be here.
Yay. So Miss Katherine is what would we say? The CEO? Do we say CEO?
Technically, my title is I'm co-founder and executive director.
Okay, the co-founder and the executive director of the Abortion Dialogue Academy, which is a nonprofit that helps train college students how to talk to other college students about being pro-life. So their organization creates these teams and they train college students to then go on campus and find people who are pro-choice and to have calm conversations with them. So let's just start by you telling me a little bit about how that came about and how the work that you guys do really is very cutting edge and different than what a lot of other pro-life organizations are doing.
Yeah, so our mission at ADA is to end abortion by changing our culture. And so people always ask me how I first got into this work. It's a funny story, actually. So I was in school studying marketing, economics, and strategy, and I was kind of set to have a lucrative career in business consulting. But I'd heard it said that until we have more people working full-time to save babies than working full-time to kill them, we'll never see an end to abortion.
Ooh.
So I was weighing my options and decided to go to my school's career fair. And NARAL, the National Abortion Rights Action League, was at my school's career fair, recruiting my peers for a career in killing babies. And that moment changed me. And I left that career fair convicted that this is what God was calling me to do with my life. So
That's amazing.
I co-founded ADA with my husband shortly after college.
Awesome. And so how did you create the training system that you guys created that you teach these college students, the conversations that you teach them to have?
Yeah. So what we've developed actually over the past 9 years is we call it our 7-minute argument, which we teach on our podcast too, which I should throw out there if anyone wants to learn it. And so initially we were actually not very persuasive. So when we got started in 2014, we only persuaded about 2% of the people we talked to.
Okay.
We were not that good at it. But it was through kind of trial and error and honestly taking the feedback from a lot of really smart 18, 19-year-olds who are out there, just talking to people.
Yeah.
And it was through that kind of process of refining the arguments, really many iterations. We're on version, I think, 11 of our training, which we consider to be our final version, the 7-minute argument. And so in 2021, we saw that it persuaded 1 in 5 pro-choice people.
Wow.
Became pro-life. So
that's incredible. And then listen, you guys, Katherine is one of my coaching clients. We didn't mention that at the beginning. And that's one of the reasons I have her on the show, but also because this is exactly how I became pro-life. I was pro-choice until I was 25. And I just grew up in Seattle and I was just surrounded by a bunch of like blue state people and everybody was pro-choice. And it was all about loving women and creating safety for them and all these sound bites, which sounded so great. Like it felt really lovely to be pro-choice and everyone around me was pro-choice. And the only experience I had with pro-lifers were like disturbing billboards or kind of the people picketing in front of Planned Parenthood and just a lot of aggressive energy. Nobody had ever sat down and had a calm conversation with me. And it was actually my husband. He was the one that really just sat me down and asked me some just thoughtful and quiet questions and was very patient with me as I kind of revealed to myself that I didn't know what I was talking about. I really had not thought much about it. And so I just know that this is a really effective way to change people's minds. And it makes a lot of sense that we would start with college students.
Yeah, no, and I mean, that's actually one of the things that unscientifically I estimate is I guess about 75% of people who are pro-choice kind of fall into your camp where they're like, it's not really a strong, deeply held conviction as much as it's just kind of the cultural pulse. And so that's why, on average, it takes us 7 minutes to persuade someone. It's just because they've really not thought about the issue that much. And so when you come at them with aggression, you might be the very first person who's exposing them to the pro-life side. And so I think sometimes we get frustrated. We're like, why aren't they already pro-life? But we don't realize like, hey, there was someone in our life who told us about abortion. A lot of times it was our parents, But maybe they haven't had that opportunity to hear it from a kind voice like that and have it explained to them. So I think it's cool that your husband was able to be that for you.
Yeah. He
Yeah.
has not had a lot of calm conversations with me since then. Since I've met him now, I realize he's actually a very intense person. So I just think it was the Holy Spirit that gave him like this calmness about that topic.
It's funny
But
because
one
most
of the,
people untrained are not calm.
yeah,
So
yep.
yeah.
It's true. So one of the things I love about the work you guys do is it's very data driven. It's very statistics based. And I love how in the beginning you said, wow, hey, we're only converting 2%, and you were paying attention to those numbers. I guess I'm wondering, how did you know to run your nonprofit that way?
I went to business school.
Yeah. So
I mean, I
something
went to
you were
business
like, let's
school.
do the numbers. Yeah.
I went to business school. And I mean, that's kind of why we're out there, is like the goal is we're trying to change hearts and minds. And so if
Yeah.
we don't have a pulse on how we're doing, how are we able to track that? So, and I've always just loved data. So, and I just think there's so much we can learn from it about
Yeah.
how to be more effective and more persuasive. And then I get to do fun things. Like it was in 2021, it cost us $250 per mind changed. So then
Mm,
I get to tell all of our donors, here's how
yeah.
many minds you changed. So,
Yeah.
which I
I
think is
love that. I
yeah.
love that. And you on their website, abortiondialogueacademy.org, they just have some incredible video testimonials from young people who walked into a room being very pro-choice, then changed their minds, and then were willing to let you film them talk about that. I think that's just so incredible.
Yeah, my favorite is a student named Josh. He's actually now working for Students for Life of America, which is so fun to see him. Like he was very pro-choice when we first met him. So to see him now, he emails me like, "Hey, here's this like pro-life campaign we've got going on, in the city." It's
Yeah.
just really fun to be like to see that switch that he did. And yeah, we get that a lot. And we've actually just expanded. So we started with our college program, but now we're even offering, we're trying to get the arguments even younger. So we have our youth program as well, our youth
Yeah.
presentation program, where we present the arguments that we've essentially seen work on college campuses, to high schools, youth groups, and middle schools.
High school youth groups. That's so great. And we'll link up all of these things in the show notes so you guys can see how to get access to them. So you were running this organization out of college. And at what point did you think you wanted a business coach? And I'll just ask, like, why did you choose me as opposed to somebody who just worked with nonprofits?
Yeah, no, that's an interesting question. Why did I choose you? Because
Yeah.
God told me to. Is that
Right.
is that a weird answer?
No, that I tell them actually that that's most of the people who come. God just kind of bugs
Yeah.
them about
No,
it.
I was in the state where, to rewind, where we were at is we developed this argument and it worked.
Yeah.
But the real obstacle for us was funding. And so I'd never done any fundraising. Like that was not my background. And I was honestly kind of paralyzed by it a little bit.
Mhm.
And so I kept doing this thing. I don't know if all your clients do this, where they're like, well, once I figure out this other area of my life,
Mm,
then I'll be able to tackle this thing at work. So for me, it was like, well, once I get through the next pregnancy, or once
yeah.
I buy the house, then we had to remodel the house, then we
Yeah.
need to like do all these things. And so I think eventually I was starting to realize that, maybe the next thing was going to come and I still wasn't going to have
Yeah.
figured this out. So I got some feedback that like I was just struggling a lot with procrastination and just like, the emotions of everything. And I decided to, go listen to some podcasts
Yeah.
about it. And so I found life coaching, ironically, through the life coach that works, like she's pro-choice. Like she worked in,
Oh, that's funny.
yeah, no, she's like very pro-choice. She worked in, like did legislation for the abortion side prior to becoming a life coach. And this is who I found,
Yeah.
which most people would not listen to her, but those are my people. Like I talk to
Yeah.
pro-choice people all the time. I'm just like, I just know the way they think and the way they
Yeah.
talk. And she just had some good stuff to say. And after listening to some of these ideas, I was like, wow, I realized that this is the obstacle in my
Yeah.
way, that there's plenty of funding out there. But the reason that we haven't been able to raise it yet is I'm standing in my own way and I need a
Yeah.
life coach. And I was like, well, clearly I'm not going to hire the,
Right.
Planned Parenthood
Pro-choice.
supporting
Yeah.
pro-choice coach. So I was trying to figure out the origins of these ideas, and I
Mm.
discovered Brooke. And it was just that week that you had been interviewed on her podcast.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
discovered, and I literally ran to my husband and I was like so excited.
Yeah.
And he was kind of used to me being like, this is the next thing. I've been
Yeah.
going through this, you just got to get through the remodel, just got to get through the baby. And so I
Yeah.
think he was a little wiser than I was. But yeah, I think I probably messaged you that night. It was pretty quick. And then
Yeah.
I did a discovery call, and I knew pretty much after that I was mostly, honestly, if I'm being honest in the call, I was just mostly trying to see how smart you were, because
Right.
I can sometimes steamroll people.
That's
I've
funny.
been told that. So I
Yeah.
was mostly trying to gauge like how much would you let me like kind of, and
Yeah.
you did not. You were very kind, but you definitely,
Yeah, I think that's actually a really big concern of a lot of my
yeah,
clients because they have strong personalities, because
yeah.
it tends to be people with strong personalities that are trailblazers, and they think, "Yep, I'm just going to create this business out of nothing." And it's true. I mean, I will admit I am one of those people, and when I talk to someone, I do think like, can they handle me, or are they going to let me roll over them?
Are you gonna
And
let me my BS? Are you gonna call
yeah,
me on it? Are you gonna let me go off?
yeah,
Or yeah, are you gonna kind of be like, hey, that thing that you're avoiding talking about? Because I was
yeah,
very good at avoiding talking about. Like I even had a good friend of mine, one of my board members asked us like what our fundraising plan, and my ability to dodge that question back
yeah.
then was I was very skilled at
Mhm.
it. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
I love coaching. When I found the life coach school, I kind of had this similar thing with my husband. And I was like, I think this is going to change everything. I think this is going to change my whole life. And I'm pretty sure I'd said that about 10 other programs before then. So
Yeah.
I think he was like, okay. But it really did. I mean, I'm night and day different from before finding life coaching. And I had the same realization that even though I had all these skills and I had a lot of business experience, I realized I wonder if I have a bunch of thoughts that are just keeping me kind of stuck or playing small or not selling effectively. And I wonder if somebody could help me figure those out. And wow, when you find those thoughts, whatever they are, and sometimes they're in our business and sometimes they're in our personal lives, it really just clears the lane for then using all those other tools that we already knew and using them more effectively. Do you think that was your experience?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And it's funny. Because I'd done all the things too. I'd done
Yeah.
the minimalism, and I'd done the organic eating, and I'd done this is all going to change my life. And my husband was like, I've been through these life changes. But this one actually did. No, it really was. A lot of people noticed, because it sounds crazy to be like,
It
it
sounds
changed
crazy.
my life.
Yeah.
Because that sounds too good to be true, but it really did. Because I mean, many people commented that they saw the difference in me. And I
Yeah.
remember even like, because you're right, you don't necessarily have a nonprofit background, but I knew that I didn't need that, because I'd done the research, and I mean I'd gone to a really good business school too. Like I mean I think your business expertise is helpful, but I didn't need that. Like
Yeah.
I knew what I needed was to unblock like myself, the ways that I was holding myself back, because I think a lot of times in our business, like we actually do know what to do,
Yep.
we're just not doing it, and sometimes we're not even sure why. Like I remember rereading one of my favorite nonprofit books, and she was talking about how much more valuable a thank you phone call is to a donor than a thank you note.
Mm,
And I know I'd read this page, but I realized what had happened is I was so terrified of picking up the phone and
mm,
calling someone and saying the wrong thing. Because obviously, how are you even going to mess up thanking someone? It sounds
yeah.
silly when you say it out loud. This was all subconscious, obviously. But I was so afraid of saying the wrong thing that when I read that advice, I was just like, nope. And I've been sending thank you notes. And there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with the thank you note, obviously, but it takes honestly more time a lot of times than a phone call.
Yeah.
And you got the stamp, and you've got all these extra steps of mailing
Yeah.
it. So it's like I picked a suboptimal, less effective strategy, even though I was given advice from an expert I trusted to do something that was more optimal. But
Yeah.
it's like I had this mind drama of like, they're going to get mad at me because I'm going to thank them incorrectly.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
always, our mind drama sounds silly, you know,
Yeah.
out loud, but that was kind of the reality. And so it's like once I was, you're made aware of those things, you're able to grow and change and just to do things, because it's not really that thought work. I mean, you know this, but it's not that it makes you do things that you don't want to do, because I think that's
Right.
what a lot of people think of. They think it's like
Yeah.
follow through. It's more that it makes you want to do the things, or at least be
Yeah.
willing to do the things. It's not
Yeah.
like I forced myself to make the phone calls. I like shifted my mindset so that I was willing or even sometimes excited to do the phone calls.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's exactly it. It's not like white knuckling our way through it. Right. I think sometimes we read books about habits or willpower and they have some good tools, but if you're forcing yourself to do something, it still kind of feels terrible, even if you get it done.
Not as
And
effective, like especially with fundraising. Yeah.
yeah. And so I think what you said about we don't talk a ton about strategies. You'll tell me what you're doing. And I'm like, that sounds pretty good. But here's the thing about business coaching with a mindset coach is first of all, I just trust all of you. I trust all of my clients that they do have experience in what they're doing. And second, I trust that the Holy Spirit lives in you and that you talk to him. And he's the one who knows more than both of us about how to run a business. And so I kind of think my job is to calm my clients down so they can kind of hear from him what that best thing is, because there is no formula. And sometimes you're blazing your own path and it's a new formula that you're creating in real time. So having best practices isn't always the most helpful thing. And so how would you say your, your faith, like obviously you're doing a very Catholic thing by having a pro-life organization, but even beyond that, how would you say your Catholic faith is threaded into the way that you practice your business?
Yeah, I think that God speaks to me in kind of neon signs, which I know is a little crazy. I think maybe sometimes he's like, this one we got to be really direct with to kind of make sure she notices it. Yeah, because sometimes it sounds a little crazy to say it, but like I genuinely feel like God tells me exactly what
Yeah.
I'm supposed to do. And sometimes it doesn't make a lot of sense to people. And I mean, even this calling to do this work, I just know that this is what I'm supposed to
Yeah.
do. And so sometimes like I'll have an idea or a thing and I'll be like, this is what we have to do. And I just know with every fiber of my being that, yeah, that I need to. And so, yeah, it's definitely, it's very direct in my life. I get to see what God move in very
Yeah.
really cool but very big ways, I think, with ministry
Yeah.
in particular. So
I love what you said about how the thoughts are silly, because I always think that too. Like when I find the thoughts that are holding me back, they always do seem really silly or they seem really untrue. Like I'll think, well, I haven't done anything really impressive. I found that one a couple months ago. I haven't done anything really impressive. And even I was able to see it and be like, what? What are you talking about? But here's what happens when we allow those silly thoughts to plant roots in our mind. Even if we water them just a little bit, they create fear in our body and they usually paralyze us from doing work. We just kind of freeze, or we do the easy work, the not scary work, and we're usually not doing the thing that God has told us to do. So I'm glad that you said that, because coaches know that and they aren't silly to us. Like I'll never find someone's thought and tell them, "Oh, that's silly. Why are you thinking that?" It feels very real. It feels very real to each and every one of us what we're thinking, and it does make us feel scared, and then we stop showing up in our business. And so that's, I think, why business coaching is so valuable, is you have a person who loves you and believes in you and will nicely say, why are we thinking that? Why are we choosing to have that thought?
no, you're very nice. I probably would not be very like, nice with myself. I would be like, that's a dumb, you should stop believing that. That's very dumb. But when you believe it, you really do. And a lot of times it is subconscious. So it's very helpful to have another person who can just like look at it differently and pull it out and show you. And I also like one of the things you told me in one of our calls, we were like, I don't remember what had happened the week, but I was like, ugh, I feel like I'm kind of failing at my job. And then when you're wearing those glasses and then you start to see that in like
Yeah.
other areas of your life, because I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I have these other roles. And so when you're wearing these I'm failing at work glasses, then the next thing you know is you notice the laundry that maybe last week didn't bug you.
Yeah.
It didn't matter that it wasn't done, but now because we're wearing I'm failing glasses, it bleeds. And so it's interesting how business coaching can almost bleed the opposite direction, where it can help you improve the non-working areas of your
Yeah.
life, which is not something I necessarily anticipated when I
Yeah.
signed up for this.
It's
So
true. I'm surprised, because I was life coaching before, and when I transitioned to business coaching, I didn't think I'd talk about any of those things anymore. But with my clients, we often still talk about relationships and motherhood and in-laws and just all the other things, either because of what you said, which is how we feel in our business ends up showing up in our personal life. Or sometimes our personal life is on fire and that makes it hard to do business. So, if you're feeling terrible about something going on in your personal life, sometimes it's hard to sit down at your desk and get some work done.
Yeah.
Okay. So after you discovered life coaching and you were like, I think I want a Catholic life coach, did you go to my website and did you read about our master's program too?
I did. Yeah. I actually looked into it quite a bit before I decided to do the one-on-one instead.
Yeah. So how did you make that? Because a lot of my clients, actually, they're in masters for a while and then they become one-on-one clients. So how did you decide that you really wanted a one-on-one coach?
Yeah, I think it was a couple of things. First is I knew that I would get better results and I knew I'd get them faster.
Yeah.
And for me, like in my line of work in particular, it's like me raising this money is the difference between like children being saved. Like there was a need there to figure this out and to figure it out quickly. And so yeah, I just really knew that it would be faster and that it would be better results. And it's funny because I've heard you talk about this.
Yeah.
And I didn't fully believe it until I experienced it myself. But it's like, because masters is like so affordable. Like I was actually listening to a group call once where they were talking about it. And I was like, this literally is, Brooke says, like a $5 Ferrari. That's actually how I feel about it. I'm like, this literally is so, I'm like $50 still.
Yeah.
You don't raise the price. It's still $50.
It's going to be raised soon, but we haven't talked about that.
I was going to say, I was like, this is so, you get access to a coach, you get all of this, you get all the business content, all the life content, access to a coach every week. I'm just like, this is a no-brainer for anybody with a business, but I still picked the like much more expensive option. And it was because I knew that weirdly enough, the price would make me do the work.
Yeah.
I know that sounds kind of crazy, but like the analogy that I think of is like, it's like masters is like a gym where you can, if you're willing to show up and do the work, like get in great shape. Yeah. But there's a reason that people still hire personal trainers. Yeah. It's like, it's not a lot of times because you don't know how to do a push-up. It's because you need that like accountability to actually show up. And you also need like that second set of eyes on yourself to help you to do it quicker. Like I knew that you would look at my brain and be able to see things that I wasn't seeing, and that would help me get the results I wanted faster. And I think for myself, when I was like thinking through the money, it's like, I knew if I could figure this out, like I knew I would make back the investment like, to 10x. And I think, I mean, at this point, we raised 70. Let me think, I've raised 100,000 since we started coaching.
Yeah. That's pretty fun.
Having ever raised any money, $100,000. And then if you count like pledged money, we're closer to like 200,000.
Yeah. It's pretty fun.
In 6 months. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, it was just kind of like I knew I could go the master's route, but because I wanted the results and I wanted it quickly, it was like if you knew you would get like $100,000 if you lost like 10 pounds, you would have no drama about paying a trainer. You know what I mean? Like we only have drama about paying someone to help us when we don't think we're going to get the results at the end of it. Yeah. So
absolutely. That's like what we were talking about before.
Yeah. And I also knew that I was like, oh, it's never going to be this affordable again. I knew that too. Because I could tell you were at like the more beginning of your business coaching. Yeah. And I was like, in 5 years, you're not even going to be able to get an appointment with Sterling. Yeah. You're going to be, I just knew that. I was like, okay, well. Yeah. And it's going to be this price and it'll never be this affordable. And you've already raised the prices once. So. I think once you get into life coaching, you see that it really changes your understanding of prices. Cause you're right. I think 4 years ago, had I seen a monthly program that was $49, that would have felt like a lot to me. But I think it's because a lot of Catholic programs offer Bible studies in their membership, which is great. And those are lovely, but they won't 10x your life. Right. And when you actually learn life coaching tools, it 10x's your life. And people usually come for one thing, right? They come for minimalism or weight loss or business. But then once you learn the tools, whether you try or not, it up levels all the areas of your life. So tell me about that. How has business coaching kind of helped you be a better mom or a better wife or better in your home? Yeah. I mean, it's really interesting because you're right. Like I was coming for the business coaching. But it definitely improved, I think, my parenting and my marriage a lot. So
Mm.
I was talking to my husband about it, because I think sometimes when you go through a transformation, you don't always see the before and after, because you're
Yeah.
just kind of in the gradual. It's like when you have a kid that's like little and you're with them every day and
Right.
you see them grow, but it's like that. It's like the grandma shows up and it's been a while and she's like, oh my gosh, they're so much bigger.
Yeah.
And so I was asking my husband, I think it was because you were rating your marriage on a scale of 1 to 10,
Hmm.
and that was like a thing. And I was like, huh, what was our marriage before versus after coaching? Because I'm
Mm.
very different. And he will comment. He's like, I'm a lot happier, I'm a lot calmer, I'm a lot like easier like to engage with. I'm
Yeah.
not freaking out about work all the time.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I was like, he was he had a long pause before he answered the question.
Oh.
And I was like, to give some context, like some people say a 4 or a 6, and he's like, oh, after coaching, I was debating between a 9 or a 10.
That's incredible.
But the way I know that you're different is that this long pause I did before coaching would have been a 3-day fight about
Yeah.
what the
Oh,
pause meant.
wow.
But now this time you just sat there quietly and waited, and you
Wow.
didn't have any drama about what me thinking about it meant. And of course, he wasn't even thinking anything mean. He was
Right.
thinking, you know,
Yeah.
yeah. I think he said it would have been like a 6 or a 7 before
Yeah.
coaching. We have a pretty good
Yeah. Cause
marriage
you
to
guys have, I
begin
was
with.
going to say, you guys have a pretty good marriage. Like that's not an area for you
Yeah.
that you guys work on all the time.
Yeah. But even him noticing, like,
Yeah.
I think of a good marriage to start with, how much it's improved our
Yeah.
marriage, just the skills I've learned. And also, because what I love about your coaching is like when you do the one-on-one, you also get access to all the stuff in masters. So it's
Hmm.
like,
Yeah.
I'll like listen to the parenting stuff or the weight loss stuff, because I've still got some of the baby weight. I gotta,
Yeah. Yeah. I think that
it's
it's
not my
true.
though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think once you learn to slow down your thinking, and once you see how much we just tell ourselves stories, that's what I call them. Like I just tell myself stories all the time. And I didn't realize that I did that. And you're right. When our husband has a pause, we're like, oh, and in that moment, we just make up a story about why we think he's pausing. And so if you don't know that, and if you've never slowed down your thinking and noticed your storytelling before, you'll just believe whatever your brain starts telling you. And so once you learn the skill of slowing down and either not sticking a story into that silence or seeing a story but quieting it down, like, hey, let's just give him a chance, let's just see what he's really going to say, it really does change your experience of your everyday life, like just your day-to-day life. Even if all the circumstances of your life are the same, I just find that we enjoy it so much more.
Yeah. I love the thing you've taught me about the coin, the same side of the
Mm,
coin. Like a lot of the
yeah.
traits that maybe drive you the craziest are also the traits that you really love. So it's like for my husband, it's like he very much balances out. He's the yin to my yang. And so that
Hmm.
that calm and that pause and that thinking things through is a great compliment to me, even
Yeah.
though normally I'm like, why don't you immediately know your answer? So it was a nice answer. But yeah, he's commented on the transformation he's seen in me.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of people have, actually. My
Yeah.
mom has commented on it. My best friend has commented. My board members have noticed. They're like, something's different. I was
Yeah.
pitching something with with my podcast, and they were like, I like this new way that you're thinking about.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So
Yeah. I mean, I'm totally a coaching
different than before.
evangelist. Like I will tell everyone, Jesus Christ died for your sins. That's the first thing you should know. And you should also know that your thoughts create your results, and life coaching is a great thing. Like I just feel like for the rest of my life, I'm going to talk about those two things. Was there anything that was surprising to you about coaching?
I think how much it works,
Mm,
honestly, because
yeah.
I really have done all the things. Like
Yeah.
I've done the minimize your entire house. I've done the only eat organic, natural, no gluten, no dairy food. I've done the diets. I've done the home organization. I've
Hmm.
done kind of all those fads. And it's not that those things aren't good and that they don't have a positive impact. Like I have a very organized toy bin system. uh, but it doesn't change your life like life coaching does. And once you discover life coaching, there's honestly like nothing that you can't accomplish. And
Yeah.
there's also nothing really to be afraid of. Because it's like one of the things I've realized is I'm like, the worst that can happen in a lot of ways is a negative feeling. And when you
Yeah.
know how to handle those feelings, you're like, am I willing, whenever I come up to something I maybe don't want to do at work, I'm like, am I willing to feel a negative emotion for an unborn baby? Like, am I willing to feel cringy or embarrassed or, upset or any negative emotion if I thought it help save a life? And the answer
Yeah.
is always yes. And so for me, that's kind of what I bring it back to. It's like, are you willing? If you're willing really to feel your feelings, you can really accomplish anything. And I think that's what's so surprising about it is it feels so much like the secret to life. I'm a little bit like, how come everybody doesn't know this?
Well,
Why
I was
does
30.
everybody know this?
Yeah,
Really?
I was
That's what
35.
I'm also understanding.
I was
Yeah.
35 before, and I had read, you guys, if you could see my bookcase, you'd be like, wow. I mean, I read so many psychology and business and self-help and habit books. And I mean, I really had so much knowledge, but if you don't understand how your brain works, none of that really, you can't put any of that into play. And so I just find that understanding the brain stuff unlocks, what you had already learned. And I think you're right. I was just coaching someone last night. She had to have a really uncomfortable conversation with someone and fire them basically. And she had been putting it off and was basically just living an uncomfortable version of her own life because she didn't want to have this uncomfortable conversation. And I said, yeah, but are you willing to feel terrible for 5 minutes? Because that's all it's going to take is it's going to take 5 minutes. I'm not going to tell you that you can change your thinking and feel great about it, but are you willing to just be really uncomfortable for yourself because you're feeling terrible every day right now? Because you're not willing to feel uncomfortable on purpose for 5 minutes. So you're totally right. When you get that the worst thing that can happen to us is a feeling, and then you choose it on purpose, you just feel so powerful. Like I do. I think I could do anything now.
No, really. I mean, I genuinely do. And I just think that like, I think sometimes as women and as business owners, I think women are very not good at investing in ourselves. Like we're
Mm.
very good at investing in everyone else. Like I
Mhm.
will buy a really nice outfit for my kids, but then
Yeah.
like for myself, I don't. And so I think the thing with life coaching is it is an investment in yourself, but it's an investment that I think it then spills into those other areas of life as well. And
Yeah.
you can, I mean, you can accomplish pretty much anything that you set your mind to if you're willing to feel your feelings. And
Yeah, it's true. And the other thing I've noticed is I used to think all these things were wrong with me. And so I was in a hurry to fix them all really quickly. Like, oh no, I have to fix all these things really quickly. And now, actually, because I know I have the skill to change anything I want in my life, I don't feel as much in a hurry. There are some things where I'll find in my life an area of improvement, and I will think, we're going to work on that next year. And there's just like a slowness and a softness now to my own self development. It's not coming from fear and urgency and everything's broken and nothing's working. So that has been an interesting kind of side effect of really believing that change is possible. Now I'm not as much in a hurry to do it.
that's me with the uh 10 pounds of baby weight.
Yeah.
That'll come eventually. No,
Yeah.
I think I love also what you say about your one life goal because
Yeah.
I've definitely done that before I found coaching, where it's like you have this thing you're trying to accomplish in your business, and then you use every other thing that you don't like about yourself to distract you from your business goals in a lot of
Yeah.
ways. And it's like, oh, I've got to lose the weight, I've got to improve this, I got to become a better housekeeper, I got to improve my marriage, I got to get the kids in karate or whatever it might be. So
Awesome. Well, was there anything else that you wanted to share with everybody who was listening?
go sign up for coaching. I just kind of wish, I mean, really, I
Yeah.
know it sounds crazy. And I'm not paid to say this for the record, but I mean, like I do, like it's
Yeah.
like the only reason I really genuinely think the only reason, short of like literally not having the money, the only reason that you wouldn't sign up is because you didn't believe it was actually going to change your life.
Yeah.
And like, because if somebody told you, like guaranteed, like this is going to help you make like $100,000 and you're going to like lose 10 pounds and you're going to improve your marriage and become a better
Yeah.
mom and you're going to stop yelling at your kids and like feeling mom guilt and all of these things. And it's like $50 a month, or
Yeah.
I mean, I think personal coaching, obviously one-on-one being even faster and better, you would do it, obviously, because like we pay way more money than that on things that are just trying to make us feel better about other areas of our life. So I
Yeah.
just really wish I would have found coaching sooner and done it more
Yeah.
sooner, much earlier, much younger than I'm doing it now. And I'm pretty young. So
Yeah.
I'm just like, I want that. I don't know. I want that transformation for other people that I've
Yeah.
experienced.
It's true.
Thank
If I
you.
could grab everyone and give them that gift, it's not even the time that you work with a one-on-one coach. It's the things you learn how to do. And you're going to know how to do that for the whole rest of your life. Like you will never unlearn the life coaching tools. You'll never slip back into having less emotional regulation. It's so powerful to know how to manage your mind. And I wish I would have had that when I was 10 years younger or started my first businesses, because I've made money in those other businesses without knowing how to manage my mind. So I can't imagine what I would do if I had that.
I also think it's helpful for me as somebody who wants to have employees, like I have employees, we're going to be hiring more. It's helpful to have like another person to talk to about like your drama, so to speak, because,
Yeah.
we're not going to our customers.
Right.
Uh, and what I used to do, like, I wouldn't necessarily go to a donor and be like, hi, I'm freaking out about this irrational thing called phone calls. But sometimes I would go to my employees, and that just
Right.
doesn't create a very good culture where like the person in
Yeah.
charge is having very normal ups and downs. And so
Yeah.
I think that that's the other real benefit I found in coaching is it gives you a person, a place, a time to go through the ups and downs of entrepreneurship in a way that is like helpful and productive, as opposed to like doing that with your like secretary who
Right.
really should not be giving you advice on
Yeah.
these types of things. And they're not really qualified to either. Not only is it not
Yeah.
like necessarily appropriate, but they don't have like a business background. They're just trying to, you know, post your social media or do whatever it might be. So
Yeah. Or your spouse. I mean, my husband and I talk about business too, but it's just never the same. Like, because we're so emotionally entangled, like when I'm upset, he'll be upset. He'll be like, oh no, are you okay? Right. Because we're so emotionally intertwined. And so a coach can listen to you and love you through it, but also doesn't necessarily believe your story. And I think that's one of the most powerful things of having a coach is they're like, oh, I hear that that's hard for you, but let's break that open. Is it even true? Whereas a husband often gets like caught up in all of it and then wants to go battle for you. And that isn't necessarily what we always need. And so, yeah, entrepreneurship is lonely. It is lonely running a business. And I don't know. I feel
or
like
when the
I'm
husband
really good friends with all of my clients. I'm not sure if you're supposed to be, but that's how I feel. Like it feels so personal.
I also think it's like when your husband doesn't believe the story, sometimes that's also not what they were supposed to do. They were
Right.
supposed to believe.
Yeah.
So then we get mad at them for not believing
Yeah.
our not real story. But no, I think it's just, I really believe what you say. Like, I think if you're going to have a business, you need a business coach. I really do believe that. And I've experienced that. And I don't think I believed that when I first signed up for coaching. I think when I
Yeah.
first signed up, I was like, I'm going to do this at least for 6 months and I'm going
Yeah.
to
Let's
figure
try it.
out the fundraising thing. And I figured out the fundraising thing. And now I'm like, oh, here's this whole new set of
Yeah.
drama that I have because now we're hiring. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. There's always something. So I want to talk about the difference between ministry mindset and let's make lots of money mindset, because I think Catholics in particular, when they start nonprofits, kind of having bleeding hearts for everyone and thinking that making money is bad often keeps them playing small, which keeps their organization small. So then they're not able to help as many people. So you obviously came from a business background. And so was it always easy for you to treat this nonprofit as a business, or did you also have to kind of toe that line or figure out that asking for money was what the organization needed and that making lots of money was going to help you grow your mission?
Yeah, no, I definitely struggled with it a lot because it can also be hard because I think sometimes when you come from like, I was broke college student to broke, you know, nonprofit exec.
Yeah.
And so you're not necessarily used to people having extra money because you're used to living in the ramen noodle lifestyle.
Yeah.
And so, to ask one of your buddies for like money when all they can afford is ramen noodles. Like you get a lot of kind of those mindset things, not realizing that there are a lot of people who've worked very hard, who have, extra money, or, sometimes they even need to give it away for tax purposes, who are very excited to do good with the money. And so it's been interesting to shift that and to realize, if you're going to reach as many people as possible, because for me, like I had a moment where I was like, look, there are literally children whose lives depend on people hearing our arguments.
Wow. Yeah.
And we need funding in order to get that out there. And there are people out there who worked very hard at their jobs and have extra money and would absolutely love the opportunity to get to make an impact in such a powerful way. And so it was funny because I think at the beginning, before I found coaching, I definitely would have had a lot of that drama. And now it's with development, I almost kind of view it as like a matchmaker game. Like it kind of reminds me of like, a guy and a girl and they're like perfect for each other. That's really what you're doing. You're like, here's this mission and it's perfect and you would love it. And people are really happy to give to a cause that they believe in and that is making an impact. And so I definitely had to shift a lot of that though. That was not where I started.
Okay.
I definitely started in the wrong.
Yeah, because I feel like you're pretty good at it. So I just wondered when that happened. I feel very blessed that when I was in college, I got to work for the development officer of the business school. So that person's in charge of raising money for the business school. And she would often ask for 6-figure checks. And she really taught me that when you cultivate a donor and when you give them the opportunity to give money, that really is such a gift for them. It's not the gift to the school. It's actually such a gift to them to honor them in the way that they've lived their life and the ability and the willingness to give that money. And so I just feel blessed that from early on in business, I saw that it really is a gift to them to allow them to give the money. And I will say the more money my husband and I make, the more money we give. And it is really fun. I never feel bad writing those checks. Like I grew up so poor. And so for me to write a big check to somebody for an organization that I really believe in, it's a really positive experience.
No, that's why I like the work you're doing, because we need more Catholics making money.
Making money.
To these causes. Yeah.
It's true. And I want to say women, because I feel like women are very generous with our money. And so when we have women that are making multiple 6 figures and 7 figures, they use that money to support causes. And so I just know that if we can get out of our own way and trust the Lord and the missions that he's placed on our hearts, we can do some really powerful things in the world. Yeah. So tell me about your fundraiser that you just ran, because you just ran an incredibly successful fundraiser. What are some thoughts that maybe you practiced before that you think kind of helped you have such a success? I mean, first of all, it's lots of work and planning too, but what do you think?
I think one of the things is something that you said to me where you were like, if you knew it was going to succeed. So the fundraiser, just to give the audience some background, we were trying to raise the funding to get a staff person to do our youth presentation programs in the state of Nebraska. So we go into the high schools, the youth groups, the middle schools, and we present these arguments. And on average, we see about 20% of the students become pro-life instantly and another 30% shift more pro-life. And so even in the Catholic schools in Nebraska, and we're a pretty conservative state, we're seeing like 50 to 60% of the students are pro-choice. So it's an epidemic. We've got a solution to it, but we needed the funding to be able to offer this program. And so that was kind of the stakes. And so we needed to raise about $70,000. And that was the goal for the event. I had been told by other people in development that one of my board members in particular works for a different nonprofit. And she's like, for the size of the event you're doing and the age of your organization, like this is kind of a long shot.
Yeah.
But and I remember being like, okay. And I remember in one of our coaching calls, you were like, if you knew that if you'd done it, how would that woman plan this event? Like if you knew without a certainty that when you open all those envelopes at the end of the event, you were going to have 70,000. I think you actually said 200,000 because you always take my numbers and you always multiply them.
It was pretty close.
Yeah. She was like, if you knew that was what you were going to raise, how would she do the event? And I've been planning out the speeches and the order and just all of that. That was kind of what I kept in mind. Like, how would I talk if I knew that this was going to work. And so
Mhm.
even in writing my own speech, I was like, I would talk more about how big what we're doing is. Because I think
Yeah.
sometimes we
Wow.
don't want to overpromise people.
Yeah.
But I'm like, we're at a very exciting time, like in the history of our nation. Like we're
Yeah.
about to, I believe, see Roe v. Wade be overturned and the right
Mhm.
to restrict abortion returned to the people, which
Yeah.
means that we have the capacity now to really influence, like not just our laws, but our culture. And here we are at this moment in history, and our organization has developed an argument that can persuade 1 in 5 pro-choice people in 7 minutes to be
Yeah.
pro-life.
Wow.
Those are just the people we know about. And
Mhm.
so I think that sometimes I don't always tell people like how
Right.
big I feel like what we're doing is, because I'm like, oh, we're still small, and you kind of play yourself down. But I was like, well, if I knew we were going to raise the money, how would I write my speech? And that's how I kind of thought about it the whole time. I was like, if I knew it was going to work,
Yeah.
instead of planning for it failing, because I think a lot of times that's what we do instead. We plan on it
Yeah.
to try to soften the blow to ourselves, but then we do things that like kind of sabotage our ability to succeed. So I don't know if that
Yeah.
answers your question. I
No,
don't even
that's really cool. I think that's a such a great strategy. And I think not believing in ourselves sabotages most of our progress. So even when I was doing a lot of weight loss coaching, I would take women and I would just ask them like, really, but really, do you really believe this is possible? And if you've struggled to lose weight for decades, you kind of just think, no, I'm broken. There's something wrong with me and my mind or my body. And so if you have already decided it's not going to work, your problem solving isn't very strong. And the way that you talk to yourself is not going to be very effective. And so that's why I love the exercise of going to the future and saying, hey, but if we knew that this was done, you were going to do it, then how would you talk to yourself now? And it's just surprisingly powerful. It's a really powerful exercise.
Yeah, and I think I definitely brought that energy to the event. So
Yeah. So tell us about how you ran that event, maybe a little bit differently than, because a lot of people run like really nice dinners and you go and it's a really nice dinner and then lots of people talk, and you kind of ran this event a little bit differently. So can you just share a little bit of that so people kind of know, hey, there are different ways to run nonprofit fundraisers?
yeah, so we were doing a model. I believe her name is Terry Axelwood. We should probably link it. And so she teaches a model. It was called the Raising More Money model. Now I think
Mhm.
she calls it the Benevin. I should really figure out how to pronounce the name of
Okay.
this model that I use. But yeah, and so essentially the idea of the model is it's more mission based
Yeah.
fundraising. So instead of trying to kind of woo people with like a large expensive event where you bring in like a keynote that maybe has no connection to your organization,
Mm.
you keep it much more focused on what you're actually doing. So like our keynote was a youth minister locally who had firsthand watched her students change their minds
Yeah.
from our presentation. And so we did it as a lunch as well, a lot of cost savings to that. And we also only kept it an hour, which was
Mm.
another thing that's very different. Most
Yeah.
people did not believe that it was only going to be an hour. But I was like, look, guys, we persuade people to be pro-life in 7 minutes. An hour
Yeah.
is that's a lot of time. And
Yeah.
we had the lieutenant governor, he was the MC. And when we finished the event, we were like 5 minutes early. And he was
Nice.
honestly like, you could just tell as he's announcing he was that we kept it at the time. But yeah, so those were some of the key differences in her model. Just that you're more focused on the mission. She uses like a table captain method to recruit
Hmm.
people to come instead of like trying to get a big name.
Yeah.
A lot of cost savings by doing it an hour, and then also donors like it being only an hour because sometimes
Yeah.
it's a lot to commit to a whole evening ordeal. And so just being like, hey, it's just an hour and lunch, get your sitter for such a
Yeah.
short period of time. That was a big draw for a lot of people.
I
So,
love that. And
I love
also, when I go to fundraisers, I kind of know. I already know I'm going to give them money. So the only thing I'm deciding when I'm there is how much money to give them. So I would super appreciate that it was just an hour, because I already like you if I'm there. And so it's just, I love telling them with people working with the organization what you do and building that trust, because it's so necessary when you're working in the nonprofit space.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I guess I just want to say to all of you listening, there are a lot of pro-choice kids out there. There are a lot. I mean, all of my friends in high school and middle school, and we were good kids. We were not drug taking kids. We were not troublemakers. We were like the honor roll students who did extra work and had jobs. And we really cared a lot about people. I mean, really, all the pro-choice people I knew did it because they thought that that was protecting women. And so I would just encourage you to soften your hearts to people who are pro-choice and just know that they probably have never heard the truth. They've just heard a bunch of sound bites, which do sound good if those are the only ones you hear, and that they need people in their lives, particularly young people, to calmly talk to them about this issue, because I think this is the greatest issue of our times. And I do think if they overturn Roe v. Wade, that like that's when the real work is going to begin. Like that will feel like such a win to us. But Katherine, I think you're right. Then it's going to go to the states and we're going to really see how much the culture has won the general population. And so now is the time for us to really educate ourselves and educate young people so that we can have these mind-changing conversations. So tell everyone where they can find you, although I'll link it up so they'll be able to find it that way too.
Yeah. So if you're interested, it's funny when the leak came out, I posted a kind of a bonus episode on my podcast being like, hi, for all of you who just figured out that all your friends are pro-choice on social media.
Yeah.
I can help you.
That's so funny.
Yeah. So we launched our podcast this year. So it's called Pro-Life in 7 Minutes, which is typically a pretty easy name to remember. Yeah, 7 minutes, not because I only talk for 7 minutes,
right.
But 7 minutes because 7 minutes is the average amount of time it takes us to persuade someone to be pro-life. So it's how you can essentially make someone pro-life in 7 minutes. And so on that show, I teach essentially everything we do, all our entire methodology, start to finish. And so you can go listen to that, learn how to talk about this. And in my most recent episode, we actually have an audio recording of one of our college volunteers doing the 7 minute argument. And you can actually hear what it sounds like in real time with a real pro-choice person. So yeah, no, I agree. I think what happens in the next couple of years, I mean, what happens with everything with the overturning, and then it'll be in a lot of states, a legislative battle that'll go back and forth, and persuading people is obviously going to be very critical. But even I think for the states where it becomes illegal, you know, one of the things they're estimating is that the abortion rate in Illinois is going to go up like 800% with Roe v. Wade being overturned. And that's going to be people from other states going to Illinois. So I think it's going to be really important as pro-life advocates that, you know, yes, we obviously want pro-life legislation because that's going to save lives, but we do need to be changing people's hearts and minds if we really want to end abortion, not just make it illegal. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's one of the things my soapbox, so to speak.
Yeah, I think it's a really important one. I would say probably the two things my husband and I care about the most and support the most financially are pro-life organizations and vocations, like helping kids be exposed to vocations, because there's such a pre-shortage that I think that is also just such an important and timely issue. And one thing Katherine and I were talking about before we got on was just that just like God plants a business in some of our hearts, he also plants causes in people's hearts. And so not everybody needs to support every cause. He has planted a cause in your heart. And if it is the pro-life movement, then I think, you know, the work that ADA is doing is so powerful and so backed up by successful data that it's really such a great use of your money and your time. And for people who don't have money to give, you guys have a really awesome prayer program. Can you describe that?
Yeah, so we found that this college students are out there every week talking to pro-choice people, and it can be spiritually draining. And so what we did is we launched a prayer partner program where we match up college students with community members, a team of them who pray for that student's conversations. And so cool. I send out an email once a month about that particular student, what they're doing, so you can pray for them. And then if you're local, there's actually an opportunity to meet the students twice a year, first at our prayer team kickoff, and then the last event of the year, which is our prayer week, where you can actually come out on campus and pray while the students are having conversations and hear firsthand what it sounds like to go out and have these conversations. But for people who are not local, we have lots of prayer partners who are, you know, pray from the comfort of their homes, wherever that be. You know.
I love that. So if you have a nonprofit, you know, go check out ADA's website and some of the ways that they've set this up, because they've been very successful in raising money and in making people feel really seen and heard and loved at every step of the process in supporting their organization. And so, no matter what you're raising money for, I think looking at some of those strategies is really, really effective. All right, Miss Katherine, thank you for coming. Thank you for being my first guest. Like in 10 years, I'll like have you on and I'll be like, 10 years ago, you were my first guest, and that will feel very special.
Well, hopefully we're in a lot more regions by then. So
Yeah. Oh, 10 years. I think you'll be in every state in 10 years. I mean, you guys are growing quickly, and the need is just going to become more. You're exactly right. As soon as that happened, I saw on my feed and I was like, oh, I did not think that a lot of those people were pro-choice, but they were very angry and very vocal. And a lot of people, took a very public stance on that. So I think that's what we're going to see in the next few years is we're going to be surprised how many people are really uneducated about the abortion crisis. Really, they are. All right, you guys, thank you for listening. I hope this was an inspiring episode. I want you to pray, listen to what God is asking you to do, because he will tell you. He will plant a business or a nonprofit in your heart, and he will give you all the things that you need to do that. Get to work and have a blessed day.